I am very, very excited for our next conversation. Food workers are driving a resurgence in the labor movement, which is so true. And I have the honor of moderating this panel because nobody's let me talk all day. So it's my pleasure and true honor to invite Stuart Appelbaum, the president of the Retail, Wholesale, and Department Store Union, to join me on stage, along with Michael Big Mike Foster, a former Wayne Farms poultry worker and an organizer with RWDSU Mid-South Council in Alabama. So please join me on stage. Big round of applause. These are true American heroes. Stuart and Mike, are you coming out? Please. Or I'll start crying again, and I'll make the actors come out, and I'll make Bernie stand up. It'll be a whole thing. Come on, Stuart and Mike. Round of applause as they keep coming out. Did you all enjoy the play? Was it? I love the interactiveness of it. I love the power of it. I love that all of the actors are young and very intentional about this work. And again, Kristen, the director, just did a phenomenal job. Here they are. Woo! Thank you all. And here is Stuart Appelbaum and Mike Foster. Thank you for joining me. I'm so delighted to see you both. I was telling the audience that you two are two of the greatest heroes I have ever met. So thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, Stuart, you and I have talked a lot about how this momentum around union organizing has flourished, and it's flourished because of something terrible that has happened around the globe, the COVID-19 pandemic. And I'm wondering if you can elaborate on that. Why did the pandemic cause this resurgence in union organizing?
Thanks, Danny. And first, I just want to say the play was really wonderful, and it's really accurate as to what is going on. And it's really good to be with all of you talking about this in this historic space. The pandemic changed a lot of things in people's lives. And it also taught us a lot of things at the same time. During the pandemic, workers who produce food and sell food went to work every day. They did not have the option of working from home, working remotely. They were on the front lines, going to work, putting themselves at risk. And unfortunately, many died as a result. If you worked in a supermarket, you could be exposed to 1,000 people on 1,000 people in one day. And you brought home to your family whatever you were exposed to. And I think people realized throughout the country that these workers, who were often invisible in the past, were now deemed essential. Society would not have survived if they had not gone to work every day. And people understood something else too, that they couldn't count on their employer to ensure their safety. Mike can tell you what was going on in the plants, but in one poultry plant, the employer, when they had to put up partitions made out of saran wrap. And in another plant, another poultry plant, management said they only had enough PPE for the supervisors. and not for the people on the floor. And there is also a huge demographic difference between the supervisors and the workers. And so people also understood that as they were being thanked for showing up every day, words were not enough. They needed good pay and good benefits, and they needed their health and safety protected, and they felt they needed a collective voice. They needed a union.
Thank you, Stuart. Mike, if I can turn to you for a moment, Stuart just said words were not enough. They are not enough. When what you were facing as a poultry worker during the pandemic, I'm wondering if you can share that personal experience with us.
Sure. Like Stuart was saying, at a lot of the poultry plants, they was not giving us the proper PPE and these types of things. So what I did is that I done an interview with Forbes magazine in my front yard to bring attention to what we was going through, because I was not willing to let my fellow workers die, so to speak, in a place where they want to call us essential workers, but to us it was just a name. It was just a title. Nobody was being appreciated for what we did. You got to remember, in a poultry plant where I worked there for 20 years, we worked elbow to elbow. There's no 6 inches of space in between us. We have to work to feed America, when America was giving so much credit to the doctors and the nurses, which deserve it. But if you're dying of starvation, can you go to the hospital for that? You need to be fed by poultry workers, meat packaging workers, and things of that sort. And then when they call us essential workers, the company gives us 4 quarters and tell us that's sufficient for your life. To me, that was a slap in the face. To me, I have to go to work every day to provide for America, which I was proud to do. That's in my heart to do. It's to help be a part of something positive. But instead, the company looked down on us. They say, hey, thank you for coming to work, and they run back in their offices where they're safe. But we're on that line where people are coughing and sneezing. Being separated with saran wrap. Nobody had masks. Nobody was checking temperatures. We was going through a pandemic, and everybody's looking for help, like, what can we do? Big Mike, what can we do? So I felt like God put it on me to stand up for my people. And they asked what we was going to do the interview at. I said, right in my front yard. Because people are going through things at a poultry plant while we're running short on food. I work at a poultry plant and didn't even have chicken in my own freezer. How was that? I work with chicken and don't even have chicken to eat. So that is something that we have to pay attention to. And the union stood up at that time and came to our aid.
And to show you how even worse it was, the employers were creating incentives to come to work when you had COVID, when you were sick. Mm-hmm. They were giving you extra pay if you showed up every day without missing a day. So if you were going to get an extra $500 if you went to work 6 weeks in a row without missing a day, well, you're just a few days away from qualifying for the money. What are you going to do? You're going to go to work.
That's right.
Well, I think that's what the play sort of pointed out, Little Peasants pointed out, that workers are put in these sort of, these situations that they don't have a choice. They feel like they're going to lose their jobs. They can't feed their children. So I'm wondering if you can both talk about, we saw this sort of captive audience meeting take place, and those are I don't think, a lot of us really understand what takes place during those meetings. So I'm hoping you both can sort of describe how intimidating that is.
If I could start, I'd say that in the United States right now, we see the highest approval for unions that we have seen in decades. More than 70% of all people in this country support unions, and that's even higher among young people. So why are there so few union members in this country? It's because employers do whatever they can to intimidate and interfere with the workers' rights to organize and have a union. And one of the main tools they use is the captive audience meeting. Think about it. Think about it. You go to work. You're told you're required to sit in a meeting and listen to the employer and their hired guns tell you why you don't need a union. And where is the union at this point? We're not allowed in the facility. We're not allowed in the parking lot. You only hear one side. Unfortunately, what we saw was accurate. In one campaign, the employer not only spent $4.3 million in 1 year on union busters, but they put up their propaganda everywhere throughout the plant. Signs everywhere telling you to vote no. They even put literature in bathroom stalls at eye level if you were sitting on a toilet telling you you had to vote no. They were on your phone sending you messages. They were calling you at home. They were doing whatever they could. But one of the biggest things is this captive audience meeting where you'd be required to go sometimes several times a week. And I'll just mention, because we're the union that started the campaign to organize Amazon workers. The only place the union reps could talk to the workers was when they left the plant and they were stopped at the traffic light. And you'd go up to them, you'd hand them literature, you'd answer questions. So what did Amazon do? It went to government and asked them to change the traffic lights so there'd be less time for their workers to be able to speak to union organizers.
Just like Stuart was saying, with this captive audience meeting in a right-to-work state, where these people come in and mislead the workers, they talk about money. So these people are not making a whole lot of money. So if you want to take some more money from them, that quickly turns them the other way, which we all know in the right-to-work state, nobody is made to pay union dues. Nobody has to do this, but it's about putting doubt inside of a worker's mind to let them know, hey, you will be terminated, or I will promote you. And they giving these people false hope to silence them. And that's what drives me even the most. Like when we was out at Amazon, I had people come down to the light who's crying because they went to the bathroom too many times and they was terminated. I'm praying for them at the light, hoping that I can help them, but I even know with me, myself, with being with the union, my authority is only limited. So I'm racking my brain every night because, see, this is not something that I do for a job or for a paycheck. This is my heart. I love to help people, and I come out of a poultry plant where my mama worked there for 32 years, and that's what got me involved in being in the union. So when she retired, they only gave her $320 for 32 years. And for me, it was like they slapped my poor mama in the face. Right now, her shoulders are out of whack for working in this place for so long because these industries do not care about the value of the people. So this has to stop. And with this union busting, for them to come in to pay so much money to keep the workers silent is crazy to me. 4-point-something million? Couldn't they have just given that to the workers and allowed the workers to become more happy, more willing to come to work? I mean, to me, it's just crazy. Before I left the poultry plant where I worked there for 20 years, I never made no more than $11.75 an hour. That is crazy for a 20-year employee. Tell me where that happens at. When this company is probably the second or third leading poultry plant in the world that will not take care of the workers, how can we sit here and ask ourselves that we value our workers when we don't? It's clearly to see that these people are not valued, but when the pandemic came in, it shined a light on them, but we're still too far away. We have a long way to go. So it puts judgment in my mind. Are these people serving a higher power? Are they serving a God that does not like things like this? You know, so to me, I'm asking myself, what are we doing and what can we do to make this process even better? So that's just my quick spiel on it.
Thank you, Preacher Mike.
Danny, you asked about this moment. People all over this country are tired of being treated as disposable, tired of being treated as their own lives don't matter, tired of being treated like robots, tired of earning inadequate wages while they're being thrown crumbs by the corporate elite that's taking joyrides into outer space. They are tired of the income inequality in our country. Bernie Sanders said something last week that I heard, that 3 people in this country, 3 people, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, together have as much wealth as 50% of the people in this country combined.
Wow.
People are ready for a change, and we're seeing that.
Wow.
It's thrilling to watch what's happening in the Starbucks campaign, at Trader Joe's, at REI, at Apple. People all over are standing up and saying they want something different.
Absolutely. And Mike, you know this better than anyone. You know, you've inspired so many other workers, but when that Forbes piece that you did in your front yard went viral, I can't imagine the intimidation and harassment you got from the poultry company.
Listen, I have heart. And the next day when I showed up at their workplace and I seen them outside checking temperatures and giving away masks, only thing I can say is thank you, God. Because, see, listen, if somebody doesn't stand up and say something, what happens? What really happens? So if I had to be the sacrifice, I was willing to do that for the people. And it's just not a color ratio to me. It's about every living individual in that place who's trying to make a living for their family, and they was putting their lives on the line. So was I. And I was not willing to stand by and just let that happen anymore. So with moving on with the chicken and showing up at Amazon, oh my God, it's the same thing that's happening all around the world. Somebody has to stand up. So when it was raining, I was at the stoplight. When it was freezing, I was at the stoplight. Nothing would not change me showing up to that stoplight. Even when the light changed, I was still running behind the car with my literature. You know, so I mean, it's just an honor to be able to be the person who's inspiring someone.
Let me tell you also what the it takes so much courage to stand up. In a captive audience meeting, the employer will sometimes do things that are just extraordinary. So if you stand up and raise a question, they'll tell you to get out of the meeting. Or sometimes, and they did this in Bessemer at Alabama, in Amazon, they'd ask the person who stood up to come forward. So these outside anti-union consultants, union busters, could take a photograph of their badge.
Yes.
And they say, we're doing that just so we could get back to you later to answer your question. Surprise, surprise, they never got back to them later.
Never.
They were looking to retaliate.
Never.
And so you know, and I have to throw this in, employers also think it's better to just break the law over and over again because there are no real consequences. What you do is you break the law, you fire people you're not supposed to fire, you stifle the campaign, and a few years later, you're found guilty and you have to pay a little money to some people. The laws in this country to protect workers during organizing campaigns are worthless and need to be changed. And there's a bill in Congress called the PRO Act that would change the law.
Can you talk a little bit more about that, what the PRO Act will do and why it's so important, Stuart and Mike?
The PRO Act would outlaw captive audience meetings. The PRO Act would provide meaningful penalties on the companies and the executives. The PRO Act would level the playing field and make a big difference for workers. You know, it's the policy of this country, according to our legislation, to encourage collective bargaining, but you can never tell that from the way things operate today.
Sure.
And I have to say that when we asked Joe Biden to put out a tweet during our campaign supporting our campaign, he did more. He did a videotape where he talked about the campaign in Alabama and said that the decision of whether or not you want a union is supposed to be the worker's choice. It's not the employer's choice. And he condemned the intimidation and interference by employers. We have to make that sentiment the law.
Absolutely. Mike, please. Mike, what you were able to do at Amazon is historic. It's never been done before. It was such a win for workers all over the country. And I wonder, from your perspective, you know, there are young people, there are older people who want to form unions. What advice do you have for them?
Like I always tell people, the outcome in the first election, you may look at it as a loss, but we don't. We look at it that we sparked the labor movement in the whole wide world with doing that. We opened up people's eyes, especially at Amazon, because at first all you seen was the commercial with the smile come across the screen. Nobody ever knew what it took to get those packages to your door. I have workers come and tell me it's like a 10-hour workout, nonstop, picking and storing and running and racing over here, doing robots and all of this stuff. And for me, with organizing to encourage young people, if you want your voice to be heard, you need to organize. People are tired of standing in the back yelling over people trying to get their voice heard when we can come to the table and sit around the boss man and let them know, hey, this little money is not enough. I'm still struggling, but we have billion-dollar companies who steady making money, but poverty is steady rising. We got people who's working every day inside of factories and facilities that can't even eat at these places. They can't even buy cars or food at these places. What are we saying? We have to have a voice. But intimidation is so strong in the South. In a right-to-work state where your employer just can text you and say, we no longer need you. Well, hold up. Can I at least say something? Can I at least come in and talk about this? No. We can just say we no longer need you and that's done. That's over with. That is the power of the employer over the employee. So the only way we can try to even the playing field is to organize. If you're tired of being tired, call the union. Call Big Mike. I will show up. I promise you I will.
And it's not just younger people. It's also older people who worry that they're not going to be able to afford to ever retire.
Yes.
At General Mills in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, the workers there about 2 or 3 years ago organized a union, and it was led by people who were afraid that they were never going to be able to retire, older workers.
Yes.
And it's happening all over this country. The other thing that happened with the Amazon campaign, and I want to give credit to someone in the audience, Chelsea Connor.
Chelsea!
Stand up, Chelsea, please. Thank you.
It's the campaign. People were shocked by the Amazon campaign. It was one of the largest companies in the country. I think it's the second largest in terms of number of people employed. It was the middle of the pandemic before anybody knew anything about a vaccine, at the worst point when everyone was afraid. It was in Alabama, which is not known as being a union-friendly state, and we were going against one of the wealthiest people in the history of the universe. And people were amazed and followed the campaign. It took so long that people were able to see every step of the way in forming a union and learning about it. Our friends in Staten Island came down to Bessemer, Alabama, and they saw what we did and brought it back north. And I think people see that if you are able to stand up, even in Alabama, even against Amazon, and you could do it successfully in Staten Island, in New York, that workers anywhere can form a union.
That's right.
And the Starbucks workers, the people who initiated that campaign, said they were inspired by Amazon in Bessemer, Alabama, to start their effort.
Yes, yes.
So exciting. Woo. Thank you both for that. In the few minutes we have left, we've talked a lot about the power of workers and what you can do, and whether it's Amazon or Starbucks or Trader Joe's or REI. But all of us in this room are eaters, and we drink beverages. And I wonder from both of you, what is your advice for us to support workers? How can we encourage them to be as brave as you have both been?
I think what people need to do is to talk, to spread this message, to communicate. Do it on social media. When you go into a Starbucks, if you go there, order your coffee Union Strong. You want people to hear from you, and you don't want people to be afraid. We need to do this. I'm older than probably everyone in this room, but I worry about what this country is going to be if we don't take the action we need to take and make a difference for working people in this country so they're treated with justice and respect, that their humanity is understood.
Thank you, Stuart. Mike, you get the last word.
I think what we need to do as parents and grandparents is to educate our kids on about what unions are. It's crazy to me how a lot of people don't know what a union is and what a union provides. And I think that's our jobs as family, as neighborhoods, for us to come together and show the kids and the grandkids that are coming along that's going to take our place how to be strong in this area, how to be educated about what we're going through and what the union can provide. I believe that's our job. And right now we're failing. Right now we need to pick up the pace to show them, like right now I have my daughter with me passing out flyers, letting her know that this is what we have to do in order to be heard from the big corporations. This is the only way that wealth is going to rise for the employees. So we got to start educating the young people that are coming up to show them that it's okay to be bold in some areas. It's okay to stand up for what you believe in, and don't worry about the retaliation that is gonna may come. But if we stand together as a group of people, some powerful things that can happen. And like I said, I don't mean to turn it into a church service, but I don't speak labor, I preach labor, and I can't help it.
Keep on preaching, Mike. Keep on preaching.
I will. I will. So with that being said, listen, let's talk to our people, encourage them that this is just the beginning. Amazon popped off the nation with organizing around the world, and it's not going to stop. And I would not stop. Stuart, the RWDS union, we would not stop. And for y'all to come in and just be with us and hear us, I appreciate y'all. And by the way, my name is Michael Foster, but all my friends call me Big Mike.
My husband is Japanese, and he reads the Japanese press. And one morning he comes to me, and he says, on the front page of the Japanese paper is a picture of Big Mike, quoting his message all the way in Alabama.
Thank you both so much. Stand up for them, please. Woo! True American heroes.